Good morning or good afternoon to some of you. Welcome. We're going to give it a few minutes while we let everybody join. So Kelly, are you back home in Salt Lake? You said you were in Montana. Are you back?
I'm back. Yes, I am back in Utah and it feels good. The sun's shining. It's getting hot, but it's absolutely beautiful here. So it's
Good.
nice to be back home again. I feel like my second home is an airport.
And you travel a lot.
I
You travel a
travel a
lot.
lot. Yeah.
I'm in Florida today and it's very sunny and overcast. I was expecting better weather. So
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? What do they say? Just wait a minute and it'll pass by and you'll get different weather in Florida.
yes.
So,
Yes. Well, welcome to everyone who's joining. We're going to give it just another minute before we get going with Dr. Kelly Olson today. Welcome. What's your next big trip, Kelly?
you know what? I'm going to England,
Ooh,
personal trip. Yes,
fun.
for gosh, it's for the World War II um, D-Day celebration. It's the 80th anniversary,
Okay.
and my grandpa fought with the Allied forces for the Canadian
Oh, wow.
rifles, basically, and he
Okay.
landed on Juno Beach. And so I figure, you know what?
Wow.
I'm going to go and I'm going to honor him and I'm going to see England and France. Of course, France is where the beaches are, and then just have a little bit of a holiday out of it as well. So
Fun.
need a
That sounds
little
like it.
break. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. You've been running hard. Well,
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and get started. We've got a couple people. If this is your first time event, welcome. We're thrilled to have you online. This is our Power Hour. I'm Whitney Legate. I'm on the Wi-Fi board as well as a co-chair for our Professional Development Committee, who puts together these Power Hours in conjunction with lots of help from lots of people. Special thank you to Lewis and Maddie and Andrea who are online, who help us bring all this into a um, presentable format. We've got some of our longtime Wi-Fi members on, and I see some new faces too. So welcome. We're going to jump in with Dr. Kelly Olson today. I'm very excited. Kelly and I are friends, and I've had the pleasure of hearing her speak and thrilled to hear her session today. So with that, we are being recorded. I know Andrea put that in the chat, but that's for later use. But we're going to get started. So today is all about unraveling her story. I mentioned Dr. Kelly's with us, somatic healing. Andrew's going to bring up the slides. That's all right. And this is, I will mention May is Women's Health Month. So we really wanted to do something that spoke a little bit to all of us taking care of ourselves. We'll get into that more. Wi-Fi was launched in 2021. Many of you have been recruited by one of us. I know I found it about 2 years ago, and just an amazing group of women, awesome networking. I just made so many good friends and colleagues, and just thrilled to be a part of this organization. We've got a great board of directors, which we've currently recently expanded and added some new members, so we welcome them. But from around the industry and the country and lots of different diverse backgrounds. We also have a wonderful professional development committee that you can see here. Athena and myself co-chair it, and we've got some wonderful ladies, including Andrea and Jen Zern and Jennifer Roundtree, who are on the call today, that make all this happen, as well as our mentor and mentee program. If you'd like to be more involved in Wi-Fi, you can reach out to any of us. The committees are always looking for willing participants, and we'd love to have you. Big thanks to our corporate sponsors. We couldn't do this without them, and the people who give their time to this organization. So thank you for that. It is time for our mentoring program. We just finished sign up for our spring cohort. It's getting underway in June. We're currently in the phase of matching everyone together. We are still taking a few mentors. We've got a few spots open. So I would challenge anybody, if you haven't signed up and you'd be interested in being a mentor, we'd love to talk to you. You can reach out to myself, whitney.legate@mannington.com, put your name or email in the chat, and I'll follow up with you after the call. But it's a 6-month commitment, once a month call. And it's a great, great opportunity to share some knowledge and grow yourself, whether you're a mentee or a mentor. We'll also have our fall cohort coming up. We'll give you more information about that when we get closer, but you can sign up on our website, womeninflooring.org. Sorry, you're good, Andrew. A couple of upcoming events. We've got Advancing Women in Flooring with the StarNet team. Women in Flooring or Women in StarNet is in Amelia Island this weekend. If you happen to be here and you're on the call, let me know. I'm also there. That will be on Thursday night. We have an event as well as Friday, May 17th at 8 a.m. We're thrilled to help host that. And you can register at starnetflooring.com/events. We also are excited to host a NeoCon meetup. This is a great place to just put a name with a face. It will be hosted by Mannington in our booth at 1039 on the 10th floor at the Mart. It's at 8:30, free breakfast, free coffee. If you're in Chicago, I'd love to see you. Let me know you're coming. But yeah, come see us, and you can register under our gatherings on womeninflooring.org on the website. Up next, after this power hour, we've got our, hard to believe it's almost July, and June is just crazy. It's coming quick. June the 20th, we've got a leadership conversation between Brendan Knowles and Danielle Hussinger. We're really excited about that one. That will be at noon as well on the 20th, so register and mark your calendars. And then last but not least, just a reminder, you can check out our power hours on the website. We also have been recording them and logging them there. So if you missed one, I know sometimes we can't all make everything on the calendar. Feel free to go watch an old one. This one we posted as well if you have someone you want to share this with or direct people back, but we'd love to have you go watch some old ones and register for upcoming events. All right, time to get to the meat of this power hour. As I mentioned, thrilled to have Dr. Kelly Olson. I had the pleasure of seeing Kelly speak at an event last year, and I immediately went up to her and said, please come speak to Women in Flooring. And Kelly has been kind enough to donate her time to us today. Kelly is a woman of many, many talents. She is a neuroscientist, an author, and a keynote speaker who believes that assessing and addressing disease requires an integrative approach. Kelly's ability to illuminate the molecular misadventures that lead to disease is what makes her special, providing time and time again that a splash of nerdy, which she's not, a big dash of passion, which she has a lot of, really goes a long way. She's been in research and development for over 2 decades, examining what holds people back from their ultimate vitality and optimal vibrancy, which I know she's going to share with us today. From a comprehensive lens, including pharmaceutical, neurocutical, dietary, and biological factors. I'm confident I said one of those wrong, Kelly. She's held executive level positions in biotechnology, medical device, and laboratory testing, and is currently the director of clinical affairs with one of the largest specialty toxicology labs in the US. Kelly thrives on taking complex medical information and turning it into bite-sized key concepts, which we're excited to share with you today, and delivering this information to audiences of all sizes and backgrounds and promoting a deeper understanding and application of her work. She's lectured all over the world, which we were just talking about if you joined the call early. She is a travel maniac. And she has authored and co-authored several peer-reviewed articles, textbooks, book chapters, books, posters, and presentations, all aimed at providing clinically applicable knowledge to help healthcare practitioners get their clients and patients well faster. Dr. Olson received her Master's of Science in Exercise Physiology from the University of North Dakota and her PhD in Pharmacology and Therapeutics with a focus on molecular neuropharmacology from the University of Manitoba. So needless to say, she's a badass, and we are thrilled to have her online today. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Kelly to take us through somatic healing.
All right. Thank you, my friend. That was awesome. Sometimes when I hear my bio, I think, did I really do that? I'm only 23. So how did that happen? Anyways, thank you so much, Whitney, and thank you to Wi-Fi as well for hosting me today. I am so very excited to be able to be here with you guys. This has definitely been a bit of a labor of love to put all this information together. So thank you for joining us for this Power Hour. And I just wanted to let you guys know that this is something that, again, there's so much more to it. Whitney and Andrea, and there was a whole bunch of us that we were talking about this the other day, and we were talking about how what I'm going to present to you today is the old adage of this is the tip of the iceberg could not be more true. This is definitely something where we are scratching the surface on somatic healing. We'll get to what that means as well, which I think will be important. But it is literally scratching the surface of what can be done for healing. So I've been a neuroscientist for 15 years now, I guess it was. And before that, I was in law enforcement, believe it or not. I was Border Patrol. And I thought that my calling was to protect my country, protect my family, protect, that sort of thing. And I loved it. I loved law enforcement. It did, however, bring a lot of stress, into my life, and that's a given. Most of our jobs have those moments where, we have a fair bit of stress that we're dealing with, as well as our private, lives in addition. And so I decided that I wanted to get into medicine because I thought I could help more people. And what that has afforded me so far, I'm on the functional and integrative medicine side, is the ability to do just that. So I have been honored and absolutely blessed to be able to help people to better understand. And Whitney talked about this at the beginning with my bio, but to really understand the complex concepts of health and disease, whether it's coming from a doctor's brief telling you what's going on, what they found, or sort of the overview of labs, and taking that and turning it into something that's way more practical, much more understandable. And from that point, also something that you can move forward with. Instead of sitting and spinning and wondering what's going on, I want to be able to provide folks with steps that they can take to feel better, to heal, to turn corners, so to speak. And so that's what today is really about. If you look at the picture on the left-hand side, that was me after a really bad haircut. But that was also me when I first started kind of recognizing, I love those eyebrows, by the way. Oh, to be young again. But what I recognized in that picture when I put that picture in my slide was that I have been curious for so very long. Everything to me has been about asking the right questions, about wondering, about allowing myself to wonder and think too often, and really think about it yourselves as well. When was the last time you just sat for a minute and thought about something? And I don't really even think it matters what it was. Maybe a vacation you want to take, or maybe it was just a moment that you could steal away from. Andrea was talking about this, but taking a little one to the grocery store to go get groceries. I mean, maybe it was just a moment to breathe for a second after you got home and the groceries were put away. Not saying that the silence from a 4-year-old is a good thing, but maybe you could take a minute and just breathe and just be. And so that taught me a lot. I lived in the country. We had 40 acres of land. I was very blessed. My brother and I are incredible adventurers. And so we didn't obviously have the, iPads and the phones and different things. We found our own fun. And did we ever? I mean, we were maybe not such a good thing, but burning things. And we were, we had ponds. So we were, swimming all the time. I mean, it was so much fun as a kid. Well, if you look at the right-hand side of your screen, that's really, to me, the next step was to be a neuroscientist or a scientist of some kind. And so, what I've done with the curiosity and my desire to do research is I've melded the two together on a health platform. And so, today we're going to talk a lot about things like stress, etc. My mom and my dad have taught me pretty well about how to handle stress. My mom's a country music singer. My dad's an entrepreneur. My brother, he's an engineer, and now he's in law enforcement. Go figure. But between the four of us, essentially, we've figured out ways that it doesn't mean that stress doesn't find us any more than it doesn't find you. But we figured out ways to be able to combat that stress. And so this is something that I want to share with you all as we move through sort of the information in this particular slide deck. And so we've got some polls for you guys. We've got a few questions, right, Whitney? And we're going to push it out to you guys. I just want to get a sense of sort of what your knowledge is, or what you've heard about, or have you ever heard about somatic healing? And what, if you have, just think about this, put yes or no in the chat, but think about what you've done to sort of over the years with your body, with stress, with, traumas, etc. And think about what that potentially could mean given what you're seeing on your screen right now. So the body is indeed a container of all of our sensations and feelings. There's a book, and I have it in the references or resource section at the end of this talk, that speaks to, it's almost like our body is a sponge. It just attracts and keeps track of everything. If many of you have heard of photographic memories, well, if we look at our bodies, when from start to where we are today, our bodies have remembered everything. And that to me is an absolutely fascinating, sometimes terrifying, but fascinating concept to think about. That everything we've gone through, good and bad, neutral, indifferent, whatever you may think, has been stored in our bodies. Now, a lot of times, somatic healing, when we look at sort of what that actually means, it's a treatment, or a focus, if you will, on the body and how our emotions appear within the body. And there's a whole lot more to it. But somatic, and I'll show you a picture of sort of what that looks like in the hierarchy of our neurocircuitry. But basically, somatic means body. It means that connection between the brain and the body. And my expertise is in the brain. I am not a psychotherapist. I am not a psychologist. I have a degree in psychology, but my gosh, I stand in awe of the folks that are able to put behavioral and emotional things together in terms of health and disease. What I do and what I'm going to present to you guys today is a little bit of information about what that means chemically in our body, what stress does to our body. We'll touch a little bit about trauma as well, but then we'll talk a lot about what you can do. Because I don't know about you guys, but whenever I kind of get into this, um, when I'm learning something new, I always want to know, all right, if there's a challenge involved, if there's an issue or a problem, I prefer to say challenge, I want to know what some of the solutions are. And I'm a pretty hardcore scientist. And so what really pushed me into better understanding somatic healing really came from a few different sources. And some of you can relate probably to maybe one or all of what I'm going to tell you. But a lot of what I've been experiencing and why I've been really pushed into better understanding somatic healing was because of a number of different things. One, repeated trauma over the years. And again, these can be things, gosh, as unassuming as we think, as a teacher reprimanding us, or a parent saying, no, you can't do this when you had your heart set on it, or something all the way to as big as something like a PTSD. Maybe you served in the military at one point. You've seen some horrendous things that, again, you can't unsee, but that's part of that traumatic experience. It could be mental abuse, physical, sexual abuse, whatever that may be. The second thing for me as well that's really pushed me on this journey has been gut health. What I mean specifically is digestion. So for me, it's very ancestral. And again, remember, I'm a hardcore chemical figure this out by pathways scientist. But what I've learned is that my grandmother, my mom, and me, I don't have any children, as of yet, but the three generations have all struggled with gut issues, primarily bloating, constipation, diarrhea, being able to digest our food appropriately. And what I found with that is think about this. When your grandmother, great grandmother, whatever, has your mom, and then your mom has you, think about it in terms of a genetic platform. You've got cells that transfer, you've got genetics that transfer between the generations. Well, it stands to reason that we would also potentially, not always, but potentially inherit some of those health as well as illness issues that our forebears had to deal with. And so this is something that I find really interesting. As a child, I suffered with colic really badly. And those of you mothers out there, I have to tell, like, hats off to my mom, because colic apparently is pretty much the devil. I mean, it is that bad, and you feel like you're going to lose your mind. So, unfortunately, my mom had to deal with that. But not only that, that led to earaches. And I had so many earaches, and I thought, it hurt so bad. And my mom rocked me and did all the, whatever it could be to kind of try to help with those earaches. Well, come to find out, as I started putting pictures together with integrative medicine, that those symptoms related to the digestive issues that I, struggled with. So kind of keep those things in mind. In no way am I diagnosing, but there are connections there. And then finally, just recently, I was engaged, and my fiance decided that, this wasn't necessarily what he wanted. And so it's been about 9 months, and I could feel my body kind of going back into a crouch position. And somebody asked me about that. What do you mean by a crouch position? Well, it's something that for those of us that have kind of been in survival mode at one point or another in our lives, we kind of get to a place where it feels like it's kind of us against the world, where our body feels like it's coiled. And I bring my hands up for those of you that are familiar with boxing and kind of the stance. You're kind of always ready for something. You're in that fight or flight, and you'll hear me talk about this a little bit as we go. But you're really in that coiled position. And it's your nervous system that is trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you ready for things that it anticipates coming that may potentially hurt you, like a breakup or, like I said, some sort of an environmental issue, etc. If you look at, so sort of that's kind of my background, and that's what really pushed me into trying to figure this out and understand it for me. So being, I'm not going to say selfish, because the stuff that we do for ourselves is more along the lines of self-care. I'd like to kind of switch the vernacular a bit and really speak to taking care of ourselves. There's a reason why on a plane, the flight attendants say, put your mask on first. You guys have probably heard this 1,000 times, but listen, it's the truth. Taking care of ourselves first allows us to take care of others, including those closest to us, like our families. So what this did for me was that it put into context what I've really been struggling with. And again, you may be able to identify this as well, and to really kind of put it's almost like a time stamp and go, all right, from here, how am I going to get through this? What am I going to do to get into optimal healing? And you can, trust me, you can. And I'm working on it. So I'm right in the trenches with you. But what I've found that it involves when you think about somatic healing is this. So reading on your screen. So therapies that identify how our bodies hold on to and express these experiences and emotions. And I mentioned some of the traumatic events as well. These can be trapped inside. So remember when I talked about the cells and the genetics being passed on from our ancestors? Well, some of this stress that may not even be yours is trapped in our cells. And it's more along the lines of a genetic thing, but it's also vibration and frequency. And we can talk a little bit about that as well. But oftentimes it gets passed on to us. And if not, most certainly it is something that we experience just by living. Now, trauma, again, I'm not going to talk a lot about trauma, but basically what that does in somatic, when we look at somatic healing, is that trauma causes the loss of connection. So, first to our bodies and ourselves, and then outwardly to our environments. So, things that may be familiar to you as an example, or a better way to describe this would be not being able to hold boundaries, something that you know is very healthy, but you become very pleasing. You want to make sure that everybody else is taken care of first. And, those sorts of things. That kind of gives you an idea of what we're dealing with here. And that's why I put that last bullet point. You may be unable to feel your own physical boundaries. And so that detachment from our bodies, where no, I'm fine. I just want to make sure, my daughter's in bed, and the lunches are made for tomorrow, and my husband, has this. Or if you're a single person, like me, I go around and I organize things so that in the morning when I wake up, I feel better, less clutter. All of these things are sort of our way of detaching from our body instead of sitting in and feeling the yuck that comes with the stress and or the trauma that we may experience. And I think we might have another poll, Whitney. I'm not sure, or another question. I'm not sure if this may be the
Yeah,
best
so
time
just
for it.
at a high level, you kind of asked yes or no, because I don't think you can see these. About 70% of the group has not heard of somatic healing. And
Okay.
then we've also put out, have you ever experienced some of these symptoms? And so everyone's experienced at least one of them, I mean, through the group. Um, and so I think our leader was digestion issues, as you mentioned, for your own self, and irritability, and yeah, so a good mix. I
It's
think
a
we've
good
all
mix.
experienced a little bit of that.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you, Whitney. And thanks everybody for participating as well. What's really interesting about this is that just because, you have a gut issue, and we're going to kind of work our way through where that lives here in the next two slides. But just because you do have an issue with digestion or bloating, etc., does not necessarily mean that stress is the only culprit, right? There could be other things going on, leaky gut, a sensitivity to food, all kinds of different things. It could also be something autoimmune like Crohn's disease or colitis or something to that nature. But what we're talking about today is something more stress driven. So whether or not you may actually have one of those conditions, stress can, either initiate the issue or it can propagate or continue it along the way. So I have on here, let the nerding begin. As a neuroscientist, you guys know that I would not leave any opportunity off the table or on the table to not discuss the nervous system. So let's just go through this really quickly. This will orientate you to what we're talking about today. So at the top of this hierarchical graph that you see the nervous system. And just as a reminder, remember when I said that sometimes, especially after things like this, my recent breakup and different things, I feel like I'm back in fight or flight, survival mode. So that's where the nervous system actually feels coiled, where I feel like I could literally strike at any minute. It's not a great place to be for a long period of time, but short term, that response is very helpful. It's in our bodies for a reason. If we did need to fight, or if we did need to run away from something that was harmful to us, be very straight and certain that this is something that we want our bodies to do. And so if you look to the sort of to the left there, the central nervous system, you'll see the brain and the spinal cord. To the right of that, just under the nervous system, you'll see the peripheral nervous system. Now, the peripheral nervous system, if you look to the far right, that has a lot to do with our nerves, certainly our musculature as well. On the left-hand side, when we talk about the central nervous system, it's really focused on the brain and the spinal cord. And that, of course, the spinal cord is where a lot of these nerves are coming off of. In fact, pretty much every nerve comes off of there at some point or another. But it's the next level in the hierarchy that we're talking about. So on the left, just under central nervous system, you'll see autonomic nervous system. This particular system communicates with internal organs, glands. It's also sort of the mother, if you will, of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Now, you heard me talk about fight or flight. Fight or flight is really part of the sympathetic nervous system. So when you feel, gosh, somebody scared you and you jump and you feel like you're kind of, you're looking around going, okay, where did that come from? You may hear a firecracker down the street that you didn't expect. It's not July 4th, so why would there be? And you hear this firecracker and you jump. You may see that your child is walking across the street and there's a car coming, and you reach out, you lunge for your child to pull them back. That's the kind of stuff that your sympathetic nervous system is just on overdrive. It is on. Now, on the other side of that coin, we want to be able to balance that burst of energy that, it's the same kind of energy that you hear sometimes in the news where a mom has, and I'm saying moms because for the most part, we hear this the most, but mom's coming up behind a car that there may be, and I hate to say this because it's an awful visual, but a child may be hurting under the car, and lifting a car up to enough that you can pull that hand out, or whatever it is underneath. That intensity is what we see from that fight or flight increase on that sympathetic system. Now, being able to balance that with the parasympathetic system, some of you may have heard this as rest and digest. That's critical. Being able to toggle back and forth between these systems. Parasympathetic system is really involved in digestion. It's involved in being able to get to sleep at night. It's involved in just shutting down the system into a place where you feel like you're in, I guess the best way I can describe it is you are in the best and biggest hug you could ever imagine. Now, if we look to the right-hand side, instead of looking specifically here at the sympathetic and parasympathetic, the somatic nervous system is what communicates with our organs, muscles, with our body. And so we see that as sensory, and we also see it as motor. Sensory is all of our senses: smell, sounds, tastes, touch, whatever it may be, but also the movement of our muscles. So again, these systems, even though we've kind of parsed them out into a hierarchy, they are definitely things that work together, and they work together in concert with each other. I only put this on here. I put just a little bit more of nerding out here. I want you to see the difference really quickly between the parasympathetic on the left, which is rest and digest, and the sympathetic that can be fight or flight. Sympathetic does not mean that you're on fire. It can mean that you're focused, you're learning, you're into the moment, but it can also move a little bit further into that stress response. So look at this. Just one thing I want you to see the difference in. Do you see, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but look under the lungs on the left-hand side of this page where the heart is. In the parasympathetic dominant space, when you're resting and digesting, tough word to say, your heart rate goes down. So I want you to see that it is a very, it's something that you can measure. And we'll talk about that as we go. If you look on the right-hand side of your screen, you see the heart over there, again, just below the lungs. When you're in the sympathetic tone or area of your life, that increases your heart rate. So there are vast differences between how our body can toggle back and forth. Now, being able to go back and forth, that's optimal health. Being stuck in one side or the other, typically on the sympathetic side, that fight or flight, not so good. Okay. So Whitney was talking about this in one of the polls. Have you ever experienced? Well, Looking at some of these following symptoms, we talked about the digestive issues, but let's go a little bit deeper. I know we mentioned as well aches and pains and stiffness, joint issues, etc. But these are the things that won't go away. It's almost like they've taken up residency in our bodies. I'm working with a patient right now who is 53. She is very tall, like she's a larger girl. She's probably 6'3", so she's a taller person already. So her joints may potentially, just by virtue of her genetics, have some a tiny bit of issue. But for her, there's so much stress and unresolved, unmanaged stress in her body that right now she's walking around on a cane if she's lucky. She is one step from being in a wheelchair. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on there, but as I kind of peel back the layers, she is definitely someone who has not let go of both ancestral stress. She probably doesn't even know about it, so we're working on it, as well as current stress. She's been through a lot in her 53 years. So when I bring up aches, pains, stiffness, etc., consider this. If this isn't something that you picked up while you were working out at the gym, then there may be something else going on with this unmanaged stress that you have in your life. Sleep disruptions, absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I've stared at the ceiling, and I am definitely someone who sleeps well. But since my sort of recent, I guess, breakup, since then, I've looked at the ceiling more times than not. I can tell you pretty much how many gosh, how many nights I've looked at that ceiling, just going over in my head, not being able to stop the racing thoughts or the what ifs or the this or that. And this may be something that resonates with you guys as well. And it could very well be a work thing. It could be personal. It could be any number of things. Agitation, feeling on edge often, unexplained anger, and then limited ability to manage our stress. There are times where, again, in the last 9 months, that I'll be out driving and for no apparent reason, somebody may have done something, stupid. I don't know, cut me off or whatever. And I'm a Canadian. We're pretty nice most of the time. I was, raised well. My mama would be upset with me, but I internally get so angry. And I mean, obviously not road rage, thankfully, but a lot of this has to do with the stress that I'm unraveling in my nervous system. Now, things like exposure to environmental toxins, molds, chemicals, noise pollution, that can contribute to things like, stress as well. And then untrusting when it was earned, or you cannot shut off or relax. So there's a number of different things, both body and brain, behaviorally, that can ensue from all of this unmitigated stress. So in order to heal, we need to learn to trust the messages our bodies are giving us. And so, what I mean by that, everyone on this call, including myself, is that we have to be able to stop for a moment. And again, even in the chaos of little ones running around, or our boss saying, look, we need these deadlines, or you in executive positions going, I have got 10 different employees and I need something from all of them immediately. Whatever this looks like to you, please take a minute and listen to what's going on. There's so much chaos in the world that's coming at us. And again, we've got a lot of plates that we're spinning. But if you can, for a second, just listen to what our bodies are telling us. Are you tired? Is it something where you're really hungry? Is it something where, you basically are so wired up that the next person who walks in your office door, they better have their head on tightly because it's going to roll if not. So these are the kind of things that I want to encourage you to start doing. Now, as I talk about this, what can we start to do to heal? Some of the stuff that's on this list, I did a presentation to a flooring group. Basically, it was custodial staff that, flooring was kind of one of the focuses at this particular conference, but they wanted something a little bit different. And so they wanted me to talk about stress management. So I put up a number of these bullet points, and I had a lot of people saying, "Hey, great job, thank you for the information. This is going to be helpful." But I had a few people say, "Man, this is too easy. This is whatever. This is nothing new." And I was like, "Well, first of all, say it to my face." No, I'm kidding. I didn't say that. I thought that. No. But I thought to myself, you know what? As simple as what you see in front of you is, are we doing it? And again, I say that with so much love for you guys that we've got all of this in front of us to start doing to heal, but are we doing it? So, journaling, gratitude, I know people will, their skin gets itchy when they think about journaling. I'm one of them. But what I've been doing, instead of necessarily thinking about everyday journaling, I'm journaling every once a week. And it's kind of a, something where, okay, I attain that maybe twice a week and maybe just a couple lines. And as for the gratitude, by the way, you guys, there has been scientific evidence like crazy talking about how gratitude changes the actual chemicals in our brain, the good chemicals, to a point where we can get to a place where we're more appreciative of what we have. We're able to calm down a little bit quicker and faster, or quicker and easier, pardon me. So, gratitude is really important. So, this is what I do. Every night, I think of three things I'm grateful for. Even if it's something as simple as, you know what, I made a meal today because I don't know how to cook. But if I've been able to make a meal today, I'm like, you know what, I'm really grateful for that. For those of you that do have, for me, I'm a Christian, so obviously things like prayer, being in communion or in church, with fellow believers, but a spiritual practice, whatever that may be for you, is important. Getting outside, going for a walk, getting some fresh air and some sunshine. I know that sounds way too simple, but I'm telling you, after doing it for a couple weeks of, say, being outside for 30 minutes, going for a walk on your lunch break, it will change the way you think. I know it will. Will it fix everything? No, no. But will it help you along your journey? Absolutely. So consider that. Nutrition is really important. Getting high density, nutritious foods is big. Getting enough water. Don't stress about it. Just keep drinking throughout the day. And there's formulas and all the rest of it, and we can share that with you guys, but just keep drinking throughout the day. Stress hormone testing, things like cortisol testing, adrenaline testing, might be a good idea to see how far up you are on the chain. Do everything you can to promote a healthy sleep. So turning off our devices, lowering or dimming the lights, making sure our rooms are nice and cool. They say about 67, 68. I'm not there yet, but I'm close. Being able to kind of darken out the rooms, etc. Breathing practice. Before we finish, I'm going to teach you guys a very simple breathing practice. It's called a sort of a box breathing. Some of you may have heard of this, but the one thing I'm going to tell you is if you do any kind of a breathing practice, make sure you're breathing from your belly. Why? Because if you breathe from up here, like this, what you're doing is you're actually adding to the adrenaline that's already probably pumping through your blood. If you breathe from your belly, you decrease that adrenaline. Okay, so that's important. Acupressure. Before I get up on stage, like before I even was talking to you all today, I was rubbing the palm of my hand, and I swear by this. Before, if I'm nervous, I'll just rub the pad or the palm of my hand in circles, and it does something to just kind of calm that nervous system down. What can we do to start healing? I just want to sort of finish this particular section, and we're almost done. I want to finish this with this. If by chance it's more than stress that you're dealing with, if by chance it's a trauma that is something that from your past, it can be very recent, make sure that you get the proper help that you need. There are so many practitioners out there that are amazing. You can do it online, you can meet them in person. Personally, what I always recommend is for you to interview the person that you're thinking about working with. Because again, you need to be able to click with this person. And don't be afraid. I've been myself in counseling, especially as of recent, just to be able to kind of walk through the sad stuff or the feeling bad, the ruminations, the racing thoughts that we may have. It's something I'm telling you, it will be worth the time and effort and the money, because some of these things do cost, for you to be able to get well again. All right, finishing off. This is for anybody with a healing, and I love this with a healing heart. One day you will find exactly what you deserve. So don't change the rhythm of your heart for anyone. And I thought that was, I thought very appropriate. Sometimes we tend to forget about that. So I just want to make sure that you are taking care of your hearts, because you guys are so precious. Now, we've got some resources here. I always say start low and go slow. What I mean by that is mostly on the supplement side or the pharmaceutical side. But when it comes to things about how do you start, I don't know how to meditate. I don't know how to breathe, have a breathing practice. There are plenty of podcasts and books that can help you. This is a snippet, and I definitely, we have a resource for you guys as well. This is me saying I want to stay in touch with each and every one of you. If I can be of assistance or service in any way in helping you on your journey, I would love that. My website, unfortunately, is down. That's a pretty big stressor at this point. I haven't had it up yet in a month, so it's been a wonderful site, but now it's down, and I'm still working on it. But just keep this in mind. Take a picture, whatever. Join me on Instagram. I'm at Dr. Kelly Olson. I'd love to have you guys, see me there. And I know I said I want to just teach you really quickly a breathing exercise. So Whitney, if I can, I'll run you guys through this. It'll take about
Yeah, absolutely.
10 seconds. Okay. So what I want you guys to do is feet on the floor, sitting up in your chair. And again, this has so many different iterations. I am giving you one of the simplest ones that I used before this call, because believe it or not, even though I am a professional speaker, I still get a little nervous. So this is called box breathing. So I want you to sit up straight. I want you to put your hands on your belly. Now, when you breathe in, I want you to breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. Okay. Once you get to that 4, I want you to hold it at the top for 4. I want you to breathe out through your mouth for 4. And then again, breathing in for 4. So you see the box, it's 4, 4, 4, 4. And every time you do this, making sure that the movement that you feel is not up here in your top of your diaphragm or top of your lungs, but everything is happening from your belly. What that'll do is that inherently, and I'm going to say instantly, will start to decrease that heart rate and any kind of sort of racing breathing that you may be experiencing. So again, 4, 4, 4, 4. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Okay. And always make sure that that belly is moving. So, all right, you guys, with that, that was all that I had today. And I'm going to stop my sharing here. Or, Andrea, if you could take it away from me, that would be great too. Or Whitney. And well, let's open it up for questions. That was a lot of listening to me droning on. And so let's see if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, any questions you can put in the chat, or if you want us to unmute you, we can do that as well for Dr. Kelly. I know she'd be happy to answer some. You talked a lot about stress, just while we get some questions. I think we did put the resource guide in the chat, so check that out. There's some great podcasts and things you were talking about that, Kelly. Kind of in prep for this, it's just sort of like, what is the next step? You talked a lot about layers, and some of us, it may just be recognizing that stress and how it's manifesting physically. Some, it may be that next step into therapy, or perhaps you're already doing that. But it seems so everyone, I mean, this isn't just everyone has these things. Everyone has stress that probably is manifesting itself physically in some way.
Right. Oh gosh, you're absolutely right. I mean, that to me, as I mentioned at the beginning, the stress that we have it's nothing that we can ever get away from. while we're on this earth. Stress is going to happen. How we deal with it, however, is entirely another piece. And again, the pastor at my church would always say, "Hey, I've got a finger out at you, but I got three pointing back at me." And this is very, very true in this regard. When we look at stress, whether it's perceived or real, some of us are worriers, and we may be worried about our child's camping trip. We may be worried about our next board meeting. We may be worried about, in my case, are there any good guys left? Whatever it may be, we're worried about something. Well, that is a perceived stress that hasn't happened. So it is something that we think potentially, we may be all sort of balled up about. But in reality, the brain doesn't know whether it's real or perceived. So to your point, recognizing a stress, recognizing the fact that we're not dealing with it as well as we could be. And when I say dealing with it, it doesn't mean running from it. It doesn't mean that we never get it. What it means is recognizing that something is amiss. It means that we've maybe pushed up against what we're able to handle, and we need to make some changes. Now, those things that I mentioned on that list, going for a walk, um, focusing on good nutrition and proper water intake, listening to music, having a bath with Epsom salts, whatever that may be, to just take a step, to start dealing with, start decreasing that stress. And I think that that's an important piece. We look at sometimes this stuff as being, I don't know where to start. I don't know. It's so overwhelming. Get your tennis shoes on and go for a walk at lunch today. See what it feels like at noon to be outside, maybe walking in a trail, smelling the pine trees. I mean, how much
Yes.
more can that mean to us, right, than to take care of ourselves too? Yeah.
Yeah, great session. I think it's really interesting. I mean, it was a topic, honestly, I'd never heard of until you shared it with me. And I have thought about it so much since some of our conversations of just, I wonder if this is more than just a physical ache or something. And, I think one of the challenges in American medicine is that these two things don't always talk to each other, right? You go see an
Right.
orthopedist about your knee pain, and they're never going to, most of them will not talk to you about what kind of stress you may have in your life. So I think it's
Right.
great for us to recognize this. Bernie put a great comment in the chat that I'll just share, that they're learning some things about trauma that they should have known in their life, but the journey of acknowledging and putting names on things makes it easier to unpack and find freedom. And that
Right.
is a powerful and true statement, I think. So
Yes.
um, well, I think we're coming to a close here. No questions. I just want to give a big thank you to Dr. Kelly Olson for giving us her time. She is a busy woman. We'd ask each of you who are on here to scan this really quick and give us some feedback. Do you have someone in your life that you would love to be a speaker on Wi-Fi? We'd love to hear from you. Give us recommendations. But yeah, we'd love for you to take the quick feedback survey. It takes 10 seconds. You can scan it on your phone. We'll leave it up on the screen. It just helps us bring content that's meaningful to you all. I love this resource. It's something I look forward to every month. I think just the diversity of speakers and topics and the amount of just personal growth I feel like I have myself have had just on topics that honestly I didn't even know I should know about. So thank you for bringing this one to us. I'm definitely going to check out some of those podcasts. I'm a big podcaster. I'm in the car a lot. Just to kind of go to the next level and understand a little bit more about this. And I have two young children who are both girls, and I think this is a powerful tool for younger in our life too, to kind of understand that as well.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to be a donor, either individual or if your organization would be interested, we need lobbies. Everybody needs a lobbyist. So we'd love to hear from you. We will share this presentation on the gatherings under the power hours. It will be recorded. I don't believe we're sharing in a PDF format, although if that's something you'd really like, we can certainly ask Dr. Kelly if she would share that. So I think with that, don't forget to follow us on social. We've got lots of upcoming events. Again, If you're coming to NeoCon, we'd love to see you and hear from you. Look on LinkedIn. We put all of our social posts there. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And share. We'd love to hear from you. We love when people repost stuff and put it back out or say, hey, I attended this session. It was great. You can comment back because we do all this for each other, right? This is for this community and it's based on community support. So we do appreciate when you share and like our stuff. And with that, just a huge thank you, Dr. Kelly Olson. It was a pleasure to hear from you today.
Thank you.
I think we'll all be thinking about this one for a little bit longer. So everyone says, thank you, great session. This was my first time attending. Welcome. We're so glad to have you, first timers. Please come back again. So big thanks to everyone and the Wi-Fi team who helps put this together. Thank you, Lewis. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Andrea. And I hope everybody has a fantastic week.
Great.
Thanks,
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.